Awesome. All right, really excited to have four fantastic folks with us today, all from the London ecosystem. So if I could welcome onto the panel Evgeny, Sid, Kurt, and Clemens, and let's get into this. Yeah, go for it. Fantastic. Well, cheers, guys, for coming along today. And for today's topic, we are looking at the smartest wallet wins. Everyone's got one. I'm sure you've had your own gripes, your own experiences with these different types of wallets. What we really wanted to look at for this discussion was, what's working right now, what isn't, and where is this whole space going? So, to kick off with, I think the first touch point for everyone is the access and the onboarding. So, Kurt, you've been around in the ecosystem for a while. You're very focused on the infrastructure side of things over at Rhinestone. Things such as seed phrases, private keys, EOAs, are they still sort of necessary evils, or are we seeing a transition away from these?
I would say that largely the onboarding experience is drastically improved. Things like seed phrases should not be something that users have to handle, whether you're managing your wallet through an embedded wallet service like a Dynamic or a Privy who abstract away the seed phrase, but ultimately still using an EOA to sign on your behalf. Or using a smart account under the hood, which Rhinestone could be providing, and using passkeys or some other method which kind of abstracts away the key management side of things and allows you to introduce other recovery methods that are far more familiar to users, like recovering through a two-factor authentication or something like that.
And in terms of EOAs, we've seen there's now the possibility to upgrade them. From your side of things, how many folks are doing that right now? What does that actually look like? And does it actually solve any of those initial problems we've seen with them?
Yeah, it's still super early, so not all chains support the ability to upgrade an EOA to a smart account. And in terms of wallet adoption, it's still also very early days. You have major wallets like MetaMask, Uniswap, Rainbow is exploring this, and they're doing it in a phased approach where they want to introduce key features that will improve certain user experiences. So for example, batching. When you go to Uniswap and you want to swap one token for another, often you have to approve, and then you have to actually execute the transaction so these can be batched together. There are different gas abstraction is a big one. So if you're a user and you don't have tokens in the wallet, but you want to do some action, maybe you're withdrawing from a vault, or maybe you're purchasing an NFT, but you only have some stable coins. So these features are very important to wallets to drive more adoption of the products they offer.
Absolutely. And Evgeny, you've been around in the space for a while with your wallet, Zerion. In terms of the way you've approached building your app, what does that look like for you in terms of you started several years ago now?
About that.
Yeah. And in terms of that process of, I guess, maintaining pace with the speed of innovation in this space, has that changed your approach to the way you build?
I think this is it's a great question, first of all. We've been in a space for a while, as you said, and the space was changing so rapidly. And I think because of the lack of the standards, we were always at the forefront trying to figure out what's the most important thing right now for the wallets to be building. And I think when it comes to, for example, smart wallets and this upgrades to EOAs, I think the adoption is slower simply because we are still exploring this possibility space and the practical applications of this upgrade. So as Kurt mentioned, the gasless and batching, I think this is something that we're exploring as well, but it's still in the early days because private keys are still the most universal vehicle towards accessing crypto, and I think people still in crypto value composability and interoperability across different dApps, chains, etc., versus essentially convenience of this smart accounts. I think when it comes to us, how we've changed our approach, it was a lot about following what's the most up-to-date standards that we can adopt and where they actually bring this value to the users.
Yeah, sure thing. And just on this, Clemens, with everything that's going on over with Base at the minute, and another wallet that's been around for a while with Coinbase Wallet, you're now transitioning, focusing on the Base app. what have been the core considerations in that transition, and what are you looking to enable moving forwards?
I think the big issue that we've been facing in this industry and that we've sort of been talking about consistently across different panels across the entire conference circuit on the world is really the question of how to onboard the masses, right? You go over and over asking yourself the same question, and I think it all comes back down to the friction that Kurt briefly got into, is the friction that we're currently facing just isn't conducive to really getting on board that next wave of users, right? And I do think that what we're starting to see with wallets coming out now, especially with passkeys, with an ease of access that Privy, for example, allows, you're starting to see that we're slowly moving from, I would say, the early adopters to the early majority, and I think that's a big bet that Base, for example, is taking. And they effectively did that by taking the Coinbase wallet team and really taking it into the Base core team, because a key consideration is, as you're going to that next wave of users, of millions and millions of people, as an ecosystem, you really want to be able to provide the best possible user experience. And the best way to do that is really to fully own sort of the entry point to the ecosystem of services and applications that you offer. And at the end of the day, every single application in the Web3 space, no matter what it will be, the entry point to every single one of those will always be the wallet. So that's why that was very key to us, to bring that in-house first and really from the ground up think about what can this experience look like and how do we really enable this for the masses, which is why the Base app, which you already have right now and is currently in beta, and which will be rolled out to the general public within the next few months, has really been built from scratch with those key considerations in mind.
And talking about usability, Sid, with what you guys are building at Askgina, I think that's very much focused on that sort of human-readable, plain English sort of understanding and interaction with the platform. Can you speak to that a little? Because in particular, you're focusing, I guess, on that AI-enabled experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's like two different gradients we've seen in terms of enabling usability. So with Gina, we're building an AI interface to interact on chain and effectively make your wallet work for you. And on the one end, we've actually interacted with many users who are making their first moves into crypto. Like you were mentioning, onboarding more of the masses. We actually held an event in London earlier this year. We had a bunch of folks who had never made a transaction on chain. They had a Coinbase account. They came, and within a few sentences, they made their first on-chain transaction. So just enabling that initial crypto 101 use case of the question that they asked was like, what's the difference between Solana and Ethereum? And how can I get exposure to the top projects on Solana? 2 sentences later, they had 5 transactions made, right? So that's like a crypto 101 use case, but also on the very advanced, crypto native degen use case, we're kind of a token production industry at this point. There's so many tokens being created. Just like with AI, crypto is a token production industry. And one of the use cases we've been seeing is for crypto natives to get bulk exposure to multiple assets at once. AI is a huge enabler of that, where you start typing a prompt and you can get exposure to 10, 15, 20 trending assets in one go, which is physically hard for us to do. And we're just leveraging all of this infrastructure that's been built with smart wallets and cross-chain intents and solvers and all of this other stuff to enable a better user experience for both crypto natives and simple one-on-one users.
Yeah, and I guess with all of this and what we're discussing, a lot of it is very much, I guess, the abstract, abstracting away the complexity that historically has been there when interacting with wallets. I guess a big thing in crypto is trust but verify. So how do you see these two things sort of reconciling? Because I can imagine a lot of the experiences for the crypto natives in the room, you want to be able to understand in what you're actually signing, what you're interacting with. If you're relying on AI to maybe make this more simplified, it feels like there's a bit of tension there. I don't know if you've experienced that with any of your users or.
Yeah, we have actually. Funny story. I mean, initially we used Privy to sign in, and the login option we had was email and social logins, et cetera, which is a great way to onboard new users. But for crypto natives, the initial impulse is to log in with your wallet and have anonymity be built in. And so we're like adapting to that world as well. And I think there is a gradual transition globally happening in terms of AI usage, just trusting agents. ChatGPT has 800 million weekly active users now. People are just getting more comfortable talking to agents and letting them do work for you. And I think we're still in that transition phase in crypto. Hopefully we can drive more of that in terms of an agent executing transactions for you. You're delegating some portion of funds access to that agent, right? So I think that's the transition period we're in, and it's an exciting phase for sure.
And more broadly, I guess, to the panel as a whole, I can imagine there's a lot of conversations you're regularly having with your users. Are there any other particular friction points you're seeing right now in terms of, we're making this evolution of wallets, we're improving the tech. I don't know, in terms of Evgeny, Clemens, particularly with the new app, what sort of interactions are you having with your users? I mean, I guess smartest wallet wins, right? Part of that could be just giving the people what they want and making it as intuitive as possible. But I'd love to learn a bit more about your sort of feedback loops, so you're taking on that advice, input.
Right.
I have one thing to share that I think has been this big struggle for the whole industry is the multi-chain world. So in some sense, it's promising us scalability and specifically like app chain like use cases where you can like scale some specific component of the chain to fit your type of user. But I think it creates a lot of liquidity issues, as in like everything is scattered across these chains. Not every chain has the same level of support for EVM or for different like compiler options, etc. So that creates a lot of the, I guess, frictions for the end users, because they need to understand, like as a wallet, we want to remove that complexity, this multi-chain complexity, but at the same time, like we have to explain still the peculiarities of each different chain.
And Clemens, in terms of your take on that, is there anything in particular you guys are focusing on in the way you speak to your users and develop?
I think, we really want to focus on simplicity, and I think one big bet that we're taking with the current base app is that I think a lot of the dominant wallets of the future won't necessarily look or feel like a wallet, right? You won't necessarily interact with this application because it is a wallet. There will be something else inside there that really, causes you to return over and over and over again. That can be, on the one hand, a social feed. That can be, on the other hand, a group chat. And that's also where we're really trying to leverage AI agents in this capacity too, because you're able to, for example, drop AI agents into your group chat. And that AI agent, for example, can create a prediction market on the fly as you're chatting with your mates about the next football game coming up, or maybe some event about to happen within your friend group. And then I think mini apps as well are a very big bet that we're trying to take here, is as you already get people into that door through messages, through social experiences via the Farcaster graph, that you're able to then allow developers to really insert their applications into this kind of ecosystem and really create that flywheel of more users, attract more developers build more products for more users again, and to again achieve our mission here of bringing the world on-chain and increasing on-chain innovation.
And just quickly on the ecosystem side of things, I think that's one thing you guys at Base do really well in terms of building that broader ecosystem. Historically, a lot of it has been quite dev focused, more broadly in the crypto space. To sort of break out of that echo chamber, is there anything in particular you guys are focusing on within those particular verticals you mentioned?
Absolutely. So I think one big drive with this app, because it is at its core a very social app, and there's a lot of open protocols that we've been able to leverage by now, and there's so much fantastic infrastructure that has been built over the last 10 years that we're really able to tap into. For example, the current base app is leveraging the Farcaster protocol for its social graph and feed. We're leveraging Zora for content coining, which is still an experiment that is ongoing, but I think is highly fascinating in nature. We have the XMTP protocol for messaging. So I think we are really trying to tap into the social side of things. That means also really creating something for creators, where creators are able to own and monetize their assets and own their data in that capacity. And then one big thing that we really want to make sure to focus on is founders. And I think there's been in the past a lot of infrastructure companies and a lot of ecosystems have made the fundamental mistake of conflating developers with founders and thinking if you throw enough bounties and grants at developers, you will turn them into founders. But what often is the case, you'll actually have some very, very talented non-technical founders, right, that are able to really motivate and convince a lot of developers to join them along on their journey. So that's what we're trying to really do, is be very holistic in our approach of attracting founders as well as creators in this journey.
Yeah, makes sense. I just want to quickly put it back to something you said, Evgeny, about the cross-chain world. I can imagine a lot of the folks in the audience have multiple different wallets for multiple different chains, and it does start to get a bit unmanageable. Kurt, a lot of what you guys focus on at Rhinestone is to sort of enable wallet providers to sort of resolve this issue. Can you speak to that a little?
Yeah, so we have infrastructure around intents, and one of the unique properties of smart accounts is that you can sign over an action, so provide a signature as a user. That signature can be multi-chain, and then a sophisticated actor can put that transaction on-chain for you. And so what this enables is you can have these sophisticated actors called solvers. They store and maintain liquidity across the chains where you might want to transact. And so you can have funds on, say, Base and want to transact on Arbitrum, but you don't have funds on Arbitrum. You can sign over that transaction, and then that solver can essentially put the transaction on chain first inject the funds into your wallet and then put the transaction on chain. And then we have like settlement layer infrastructure where we kind of coordinate the repayment between the solver and the user. So this can be like quite sophisticated under the hood, where you can have a transaction that has multiple input chains, multiple input tokens. It might require swaps. But for the user, it just looks like one click, one simple interaction. Everything else is kind of managed under the hood. The signatures are all human readable, so you're not signing over some random bytes. It's not like a string of letters and numbers. It's actually like, it's telling you exactly what's happening across each chain, and wallets can kind of digest that, use that in their UI to inform the user how they like about what's actually happening. And so, yeah, for all intents and purposes, it really does start to solve this problem of having the user having to know what networks are under the hood and having to bridge funds before transacting and all that kind of stuff.
And on that, in terms of folks in the room being able to sort of experience that today, because I mean, it is quite magical using wallets that have that enabled. Where can folks go to sort of experience that firsthand to sort of really understand the value of that tech?
Yeah, so one of the apps I like to push, which uses Rhinestone, is Clave. It's super easy and accessible for any user to download and use that application. It's primarily on Arbitrum and Base at the moment, but what you'll notice is that there's no concept of chains under the hood. It's a USDC denominated wallet, so you deposit and you transact, you interact with earn products, and you don't, as a user, it's not presenting to you that this is on Arbitrum or this is on Base, and it's always just one passkey signature, so Face ID, it's a mobile app. So super clean experience. They're going after this like Revolut but on-chain Rails kind of approach. Turkish team, great product, definitely check it out. But yeah, there's a bunch of others. We've been working with Gemini, who are really going after the smart wallet thesis, and they're doing some really cool stuff, but nothing with intents yet.
No, brilliant. And in terms of super slick usability, I mean, Zerion has always been a favorite of mine. I think you guys focus a lot on that in terms of making it super easy to understand what you're doing and that whole flow. Is there anything in particular you guys are focused on right now in terms of product development? Sure.
So, and thanks for using Zerion. We've been always really, we cared so much about user experience, so I'm glad it shows. So I think we continue actually to push the data layer to as much as we can. I think this is, we haven't touched on this before, but one of the biggest issues with the blockchains is that you need to orchestrate a bunch of this like chains and tokens and protocols in the same place. So simple things like how much money you have in your wallet, it becomes very complicated in crypto. And for example, for people coming from fintech world, they just don't understand like how can this be so complex to calculate how much money you have. But crypto, because of this versatility of assets, it just becomes like unmanageable. So Zerion is doing that, and we continue to push on supporting as many chains, as many protocols. Things like, now we see things like Hyperliquid that is a little bit different from everything else, like supporting this kind of directions as well, such that the wallet works for, as in like we wanted to scale wallet experience with your knowledge and your level of degeneracy, I guess.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And Sid, everything you're doing with Askgina at the minute, I think, how long have you been going for now? A year or two?
A year.
Yeah. What's next for you guys on this? Because obviously right now you've got the fantastic sort of user experience, being able to type in what you want to do, and it gets on with it. What's the next step on that journey for you as you build out the product?
Yeah, I think the big evolution is making your wallet work for you. I think this is where we're heading in general, not just in crypto, but in the world as a whole. And in that, typically we've been reactive in terms of we interact with our wallets, we interact with our applications. We're moving to a world, I think, where wallets become proactive. They interact on our behalf. And that's the kind of direction we're pushing in. We can already start doing this today with Gina, where we call it recipes, where it's simply a prompt. It's an AI prompt that you can write and ask Gina to run it at any arbitrary time interval or any condition-based logic. So you could say things like, every 9 a.m., if ETH is down 5%, buy me $100 worth, but only if Tom has tweeted today. Any kind of arbitrary logic, right? So you can kind of think of so many different use cases here, and the direction we're going in is Gina's thinking about you. Wallets are thinking about you. Knowing what we know about you from your on-chain social graph and your portfolio, your transaction history, here are some relevant actions that might be beneficial. Can we start to move in a direction where agents are genuinely executing on your behalf? We've seen some crazy prompts, even today, where people are like, you know what? Here's $2,000, please 2x it for me in a week. I'm not sure if we're quite there yet in terms of the technology, but at least moving towards that direction where agents can at least start to work for you, that's the big step forward.
Yeah, and I guess another thing to consider here is, obviously, we're talking about crypto wallets right now, but as we've seen across the world, regulations improving to the point whereby you're seeing more traditional companies moving into the space, fintechs, all of that sort of thing. I'll throw it over to you guys, whoever wants to jump in. In terms of your thinking about that, obviously the crypto wallet market is pretty saturated right now, and then we've got these fintechs which are pretty established with the distribution coming in. How do you see this playing out over the next few years? Evgeny.
I've got a take on this.
Yeah.
I mean, we have two products at Zerion. So the second product is really the API. So we actually help a lot of these new wallets enter the space. And we've been obviously discussing that internally, like how does it work in terms of the competition for ourselves and helping other wallets to really scale and get the same level of quality of the UI, etc. But we just realized that it's really the expansionary moves for the market. So all of these new entrants, like the fintechs, they are bringing their own audiences. So they're not really onboarding new users into the crypto through, like, as in people don't become new users of Robinhood, for example, because of crypto. They already are users of Robinhood for the stock market, and they are being onboarded into crypto. So we think that this is, again, like the early majority type of move, and I believe that's going to just, increase overall adoption of crypto. So I'm very excited about that direction. Yeah.
Do you have any other takes?
I mean, I'll just say, I think wallets today are like, I don't think they're going to scale to the masses. I think this idea of like extension wallets and whatnot, like, the way that we consume MetaMask since like 2018 is just kind of bizarre. I think the wallets of the future are social apps. They're banking apps, like, neobanks built on blockchain rails. They're like the wallet you use in gaming, or when you think about how we use Google today as like an account that we take across many different platforms and apps, like you can do that with smart accounts, and you can have this profile that goes with you, and you can permission a session key for that app to do things for you. And so yeah, I think the idea of how we interact with crypto today through these like extension apps is very bizarre, and even potentially how we have these wallet apps and we have to scan a QR code and all this kind of stuff is kind of strange. I do think that the wallets of the future will look much more like these kind of super apps that tend to own specific spaces, and that's what you use as your kind of identity layer, but also your portfolio within those ecosystems of apps.
Yeah, and right now with Rhinestone, your tech enables embedded wallets. Do you have any examples that folks could go take a look at to sort of see what that experience, that user journey looks like?
Yeah, there's one that combines embedded wallets and AI, so that's Magic Newton. And they use session keys, and they use our intent infrastructure, and they have AI agents that can do transactions and whatnot on your behalf. So it's like an offshoot product of Magic.link that are an embedded, like a key management provider. So that's a good example.
Yeah, no, cheers. And Clemens, with Base, obviously you're leaning into this whole social creator play. What does that look like for distribution in the long run? Is it very much looking to be that sort of all-in-one app, you know, a la X, whatever it may be?
So I think there's a couple points made here already, I think especially around applications, mobile applications most importantly. So we're taking really the long-term view that consumer crypto will be mobile. And if you just look across the world, like the mobile smartphone adoption is skyrocketing. Doesn't matter if it's in Africa, if it's in Southeast Asia or South America, like people go online first and most foremost with their smartphones, right? And so what we've been seeing already in the East is the emergence and dominance of the super apps. You have WeChat, you have Gojek, you have Grab, all out in Southeast Asia. And what we're sort of seeing in the West is two different approaches. On the one hand, you have the fintechs kind of moving into social with Revolut, Robinhood, et cetera. And then you also have the big social companies like X and Meta moving into the financial space. And what Base is really trying to do here is really to create that consumer crypto super app, but also to have it as an open, permissionless ecosystem where anyone can come in and build for that user base. And I think that's really what's going to be really exciting to sort of see play out. But at the end of the day, I think it's all going to converge into that everything app where you can do everything, you can transact everything. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting race to get there.
Definitely. So we've got a couple minutes left. I guess the final question from me would be, obviously, we position this talk as the smartest wallet wins. It'd be great to hear from each of the panelists, you know, what is going to be the one thing which unlocks the wallet space and actually, you know, chooses a winner? Because, as we've said, there's thousands of wallets out there. Not all of them are going to survive. So maybe start with Kurt.
I do think smart accounts are like a really pivotal primitive. And I think like the future, like all accounts and all wallets will be backed by a smart account. I mean, if you want to go there, like signatures today are not quantum resistant. And so we will need smart accounts to be quantum resistant. So it's going to happen at some stage. And like the EIP you mentioned earlier, EIP 772, where you can upgrade an EOA, like this is just going to keep going further and further, and you know the core devs are going to push in this direction, and I think it's the right move.
Yeah, I think what it's really going to come down to is what types of products and experiences are you enabling. I think the wallet, again, is just the entry point, but it's always going to be about that why. Why is somebody going to come to you to do what, right? So I think this is really where it comes down to, identifying great founders and great builders and making sure that their products work best in the best possible way with your wallet.
Sid, is it AI?
I mean, everything is AI. I think the key distinguishing factor here is, we're in this little bubble of crypto, and we have a lot of technology, but what can we enable in terms of net new user behavior, leveraging the infrastructure of crypto and the best of AI? I think that's the key distinguishing factor, because there's a ton of everything apps. Like, PayPal's trying to be an everything app, Twitter's trying to be an everything app. And so, like, how do we distinguish as an industry? And, like, we have to drive net new user behavior, leveraging global financial rails, seamless stablecoin settlement, and a seamless UX as well. And I think that's what pushes us forward.
Sure thing. And Evgeny, to conclude.
I would say this would be, we touched on this before, I think that's going to be the most proactive wallet. And I think this, again, connects to AI as well in big part. Through the AI agent specifically, I would say, where we've been speaking with a bunch of users and they've been telling us that, okay, can I just go to sleep but let my agent work for me? Can I copy trade someone on chain while I'm not looking at this? So essentially enabling and empowering users with the wallets themselves should be doing that. And I think we're past that stage where wallets we're pure signers. We're not we don't have anything to do with what's actually the content of the space. And now I think there's a big push towards wallets being smart.
Awesome.
Smart.
Well, thank you very much for all your time. If we can give our panel a round of applause, that wraps up this talk. Cheers.